I thought I was losing my mind. It started with one photograph, the family portrait that had hung above our fireplace my whole life, the one with all four of us in matching navy sweaters, taken at that overpriced studio in the mall the winter I turned 9. Mom, Dad, my younger sister Claire, me. I wasn't in it anymore. At first I laughed. I thought someone had edited it as a joke. Then I checked another photo, then another, then every single picture in the house, every birthday, every Christmas, every vacation. I was gone. And when I asked my mother why, she looked at me with genuine confusion. She told me she'd never had another child. My name is Nathan Reyes. I'm 29 years old. 3 weeks ago, I was in a car accident. Nothing dramatic. A fender bender on the interstate, a mild concussion, 2 nights in the hospital just to be safe. I drove to my parents' house the day I got out. My mother had insisted. Honestly, part of me wanted to be fussed over for an afternoon. Something was wrong the second I walked in the door. My father hugged me too long and too hard. The kind of hug you give someone at a funeral, not someone stopping by for lunch. My mother kept glancing at me sideways, like she was looking at a stranger she didn't want to be caught staring at. I told myself it was the accident, that they were just shaken.
Then I went looking for my old room. My room had always been the second door on the left. I reached for the doorknob without even thinking about it, the way you reach for a light switch in a house you've lived in your whole life. I opened it and stopped. Gray walls, a queen bed where my twin bed used to be, a generic lighthouse painting on the wall where my baseball posters had hung for 10 years. I honestly thought, for one full second, that I'd opened the wrong door, that somehow I'd miscounted, walked into the wrong hallway of the wrong house. My mother appeared behind me before I could say anything. "Honey," she smiled, "that's always been the guest room. Always." Something about the way she said that word sat wrong in my chest. Not defensive, not nervous, just calm, easy certainty. The kind of certainty you only have about things that are actually true. I turned to face her. Something in me needed her to see me. Really see me. The way you need a mirror to confirm you're standing where you think you are. "Mom," I said it slower than I meant to. "Look at me." She smiled, a little sadly, like I'd said something confusing rather than something urgent.
"I'm looking at you." "No, really look at me." Her smile faltered. She searched my face the way you search a room for something you're sure you left there, growing more unsettled the longer you can't find it. And then, without any warning at all, her eyes filled with tears. Not because she'd remembered something, but because she hadn't. Because some part of her understood, on a level she had no language for, that she was supposed to know exactly who was standing in front of her. And she genuinely, helplessly, did not. I didn't push her further that night. I couldn't. I sat alone in that gray, unfamiliar guest room for a while after she left. And for some reason, out of nowhere, I found myself thinking about a summer afternoon that had nothing to do with any of this. Claire and I, maybe 7 and 9, lying on our stomachs on the living room carpet. The old carpet, the one that got replaced years ago. Building an entire cardboard city out of cereal boxes for our action figures. She'd insisted, with total 7-year-old confidence, that every building needed a working elevator, which meant we spent 2 hours rigging a shoebox up and down a length of yarn with a level of engineering effort neither of us would ever again apply to an actual school project. Dad had come home from work, seen the entire living room floor buried in cardboard, and instead of getting annoyed, had gotten down on the floor with us and spent 20 minutes very seriously discussing zoning regulations for our cereal box city. in a voice so solemn, Claire and I couldn't stop giggling.
I don't know why that memory surfaced right then, sitting in a room that used to be mine and apparently never was. Maybe because it was the last kind of memory I had that felt uncomplicated. Warm, small, ordinary. The kind of memory you don't know to treasure until you're not sure anymore whether anyone else remembers it happening at all. I wondered, sitting there, whether Claire still remembered the cardboard city. I wondered if she remembered building it with me. That thought scared me more than the empty closet had. That night, I noticed something about my father. He kept watching me. Not looking at me. Watching. Every time I walked past a shelf of old photos, his eyes followed me there before they followed me anywhere else. When I brought up a memory from when I was 10, he changed the subject so fast it almost gave me whiplash. And once, just once, I caught him standing at the bottom of the attic stairs, staring up into the dark like he was deciding whether to go up there and check on something. I didn't think much of it that night. I would think about nothing else for the next 3 weeks. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my own camera roll, needing to see something that made sense. The photos were there. Birthdays, a trip to the Grand Canyon when I was 14, me in every single one. But when I held them up next to the printed photos still sitting around my parents' house, same events, same rooms, same angles, I wasn't in theirs. Someone had gone through an entire house of photographs and quietly taken me out of all of them. I started to wonder that night if the problem wasn't the photos at all, if the problem was me. I looked up my own symptoms at 2 a.m, the way you do when you can't sleep and you're afraid of the answer. Memory loss after concussion, false memories following head trauma. My doctor, when I called her the next day, chose her words carefully. Memory can do strange things after an injury like yours, she said. It's rare, but it happens. For about 6 hours, I actually believed her. I even apologized to my parents, told them maybe I'd mixed up memories after the accident, that maybe my brain had built something out of nothing. My mom hugged me, relieved, like a weight had lifted off her. My dad's shoulders came down for the first time in days. Then I found my old teacher's classroom the next morning, and there it was. A laminated class photo on her desk. 3rd row, 2nd from the left. My own 8-year-old face staring back at me. Undeniable, unedited, real. Everything outside my family's house proved I was real. Everything inside it insisted I never had been. And that's when I realized something worse than a head injury. Someone hadn't erased me from history. They'd only erased me from one place. My own family. I found the camera 3 days later. I was digging through a box in my parents' attic while they were both out. Told them I needed old yearbooks for a project, which wasn't true. Right before I climbed those stairs, I remembered my father standing at the bottom of them the night before, staring up, like something in the dark up there mattered to him more than he wanted to admit. It was one of those boxy digital cameras from the mid-2000s, buried under Christmas decorations nobody had touched in years. I turned it on. The battery somehow still had a charge. The memory card hadn't been opened in 15 years, according to the file properties. I checked the date twice. I didn't believe it the first time. I plugged it into my laptop. My hands weren't steady. The loading bar crawled across the screen. 28 files, then 29, 30. My stomach tightened with every number, like I was watching a countdown to something I couldn't stop and wasn't sure I wanted to. The
first photo finally opened. Christmas morning. Wrapping paper scattered across the floor. And there I was, 8 years old, grinning the exact gap-toothed way I remember grinning at that age. I clicked through the next one, then the next. A birthday party, a backyard barbecue. Every single one. Me, undeniably, exactly where I remembered being. Proof. Finally.
I was still sitting there, laptop open, camera in my lap, when I heard my father's car pull into the driveway 3 hours early. He found me in the attic before I could even close the laptop. He didn't yell. He didn't ask what I was doing. He just looked at the camera in my hands for a long moment. Then he took it from me. Gently. The way you take something dangerous out of a kid's hands. He walked outside, set it on the driveway, and stomped it 3 times until the case cracked apart and the memory card was destroyed. Then he sat down on the porch steps and started to cry. He told me everything that night. Kitchen table. My mother upstairs, sedated by a doctor friend of hers after what he called an incident. An incident I later understood was her finding out I still existed. "Tell me why," I said. He stared at the table like it owed him an answer. "Nathan, tell me." His hands were shaking on the table between us.
You saw something. That summer. What summer? What are you talking about? He looked at me then, really looked at me, and said a name nobody in that house had spoken out loud in 21 years. Ellie. I waited. Nothing. He just sat there, staring at the table, breathing like each breath cost him something. My father looked like he couldn't get enough air into his chest to finish the sentence he'd started. Then, finally, quietly, she died. I didn't recognize the name at first, not consciously, but something in my chest dropped the second he said it, like a door opening onto a room I didn't remember locking. 21 years ago, I saw something. I was 8. He was careful to say it wasn't a murder. Over and over, like the word itself might break something in me if he didn't correct it fast enough. It was an accident. My younger cousin, Ellie. A lake house. A normal summer afternoon that stopped being normal in about 4 seconds. My uncle was driving the boat. He'd been drinking. Nobody talked about that part at the time, because nobody wanted it to be true. It was supposed to be an easy turn around the cove. Nothing dangerous. Ellie didn't make it. I was on the dock. I saw all of it. My uncle was never charged. My father, in the panic and grief of those first few days, helped build a story. A story that put my uncle somewhere else on the water when it happened. A story that turned what he did into something no one could have prevented. The only person who'd actually seen the truth was an 8-year-old boy on the dock. A kid already starting to show signs, within days, of trauma nobody in that family knew how to handle. So they didn't handle it. They erased it instead. My father swears that, and some broken part of me almost believes him. A child psychologist, badly chosen, worse advised, suggested removing reminders of the trauma to help me move forward. My parents took that idea and ran with it much further than any psychologist would have meant. They took down photos from that whole period, repainted my room, stopped saying Ellie's name in front of me, then stopped saying it at all. Then, slowly, over years, the way a lie hardens into something structural, they stopped saying my name too. Not in that context. And not in any context. My mother's mind did something to protect itself that I still don't fully understand. She built a version of our family that just didn't include the parts that hurt too much to hold. And somewhere in that process, the parts too painful to hold turned out to include me. The lie became the family's actual memory. Even the person telling it forgot it had ever been a lie at all. That's what I couldn't stop thinking about later. That when I'd asked her to really look at me, she wasn't refusing. She simply no longer had anywhere in her mind left to put me. I left that night without asking to see my mother again. My father offered, desperate, to try to explain it to her. I told him not to. Not because I'd forgiven anything. I hadn't. I'm still not sure I have. But some tired part of me understood that making her relive 21 years of buried grief wasn't going to fix either of us. 2 weeks later, a letter showed up from a law office I didn't recognize. My grandmother, my father's mother, who died 6 years ago, had left instructions for a safety deposit box to be opened on a specific date. The letter didn't say why that date mattered. I knew the second I read it. Inside the box were three things. A photograph, the lake house that summer, me at 8 years old sitting on the dock, Ellie next to me, both of us laughing at something outside the frame. The easy way kids laugh before the world asks them to carry something too heavy for their age. A small folded piece of paper, a child's drawing, crayon, 2 stick figures on a dock under a yellow crayon sun, my handwriting underneath in careful 8-year-old letters, me and Ellie, and a cassette tape, unlabeled, that I haven't been able to bring myself to listen to yet. On the back of the photograph, in my grandmother's handwriting, small and careful, never erase the truth. One day they'll need it. She knew. The whole time, quietly, apart from everyone else, she knew exactly what happened and exactly what the family did to bury it. And instead of confronting anyone while she was alive, she waited. She prepared. She trusted that someday someone would need proof that a piece of themselves had actually existed. I called Claire a few days after that. I hadn't told her anything yet. I wasn't sure how to start. I asked her carefully if she remembered the cardboard city. The elevator made of yarn and a shoebox. Dad on the floor, solemnly discussing zoning laws. She laughed. Immediately. Easily. God, yes. I still have the shoebox somewhere, actually. I could never throw it out. It was such a small thing, but I sat there on the phone, listening to my sister laugh about a memory that was still fully, completely hers, and felt something in my chest loosen for the first time in 3 weeks. Whatever had happened to the rest of it, she still remembered building that city with me. That was enough, for one evening, to make the rest of it bearable. People always say the truth sets you free. I don't think that's always true. Sometimes the truth doesn't fix anything. It just gives the pain a new place to live. I still think about my uncle. He's older now, quieter. Every time I see him, I wonder if he's been serving his own sentence for the last 21 years. No judge, no jail, just guilt. I went back to my parents' house one last time, a few weeks later, to grab the last of my things from a storage unit my father had kept without telling anyone. On my way out, I stopped in the living room and looked up at the family portrait still hanging above the fireplace. Navy sweaters, overpriced studio lighting, all of us. Except it wasn't really all of us. My parents were smiling, the way they always had in that photo. Claire was there too, beside my mother, exactly where she'd always stood. Between them, there was an empty space. It wasn't obvious. If you didn't know what had been there before, you'd never notice it. But I noticed, because that's where I used to stand. I didn't take the photo down. I didn't ask them to fix it.
I just looked at that empty space for a second and let it be exactly what it was. The strangest part wasn't that my family erased me. It was that, after 21 years, they'd almost managed to convince themselves I'd never been there at all. Some photographs fade because they're old. Ours faded because someone wanted them to.
If this story hit you, comment "Who am I?" below. And let me know, do you think Nathan should have told his mother the whole truth? Or was walking away the right call? And if you want more stories like this one, subscribe to Behind Closed Doors. New confessions every week.